Hello, and welcome to Tech Transform Teaching, the podcast where we dive into the transformative world of education. I'm Julian, here with my co-host, Cesar, and in today's episode, we're exploring a topic that's reshaped our lives in profound ways: the rise of EdTech in the COVID era. The pandemic has been a turning point in how we learn, teach, and think about education. From the sudden shift to online learning, grappling with the digital divide to innovative assessment methods, and the surge in educational technology, these changes have left an indelible mark on the educational landscape. We'll discuss how teachers and students navigated the transition to digital classrooms, the challenges of unequal access to technology, and the creative solutions that emerged. We'll also delve into the psychological impacts of these changes on students and educators, exploring the mental health aspect that often goes under-discussed. And finally, we'll look at the future, how these changes are shaping the next generation of education technology, and what this means for the future of learning. So grab your headphones, settle in, and join us on the enlightening journey through the ever-evolving world of education in the wake of COVID-19.
Well, Julian, for me, I think, I'm going to take it back a little bit to the pandemic. It was crazy times. I remember driving around the neighborhoods, delivering hotspots, to every kid that didn't have one. It seemed like more than 30% of the school. And that's, I believe that was like 30% district wide. No hotspots, no laptops, no Chromebooks. It was crazy. I mean, it's definitely made a huge impact on education. I don't know. I think Zoom's here to stay forever. I think Nearpod, Edpuzzle, Quizlets, all those tools that we had, platforms that we had available and basically had no training on during the pandemic, are going to be here forever. And I think they're only growing. They're enhancing some of their features. Honestly, this is a reason why I decided to enroll into the EdTech program, because I mean, this is a future. I think, I don't know if we're ready or not for another pandemic type of, as far as education, or technology, I should say. But it's definitely made a positive impact in my life. I mean.
No, I hear that. And I think before we get into, are we ready for another pandemic and what does that look like? I think, taking it back to your accessibility issues that your kids had, which is kind of part of the whole digital divide, is there are communities which income impacts the way that we have access to technology and education. How big of a hurdle was it, in your opinion, getting those hotspots, getting them to work, getting them to stay working, and getting the parents to be informed on how to work it correctly?
It was a big struggle. I was part of the ILT, so instructional leadership team, at my school at the time. And I mean, I used to work in a inner city, South Central community, where some of those phone numbers, some of those addresses did not match. Some of these people did not live in those addresses. They were not updated. Trying to get a hold of people, trying to do home visits, was definitely a challenge. Especially kids don't like doing push-ups out in the sun. So there's no way I was getting these kids to be physically active in front of a screen, and who knows what they're doing with their phones. And I mean, yeah, it was definitely difficult times, and I think that's where a physical education class became even more important, if you ask me, because I mean, everybody was home and we were all stuck inside and don't go out and blah blah blah, and my job was like, how can I get these kids moving, at least moving,
So, but what did that look like for you to teach physical ed? I know that at least at the schools that I've taught at, the physical education is always super hands-on. So I think turning that upside down and holding these kids accountable, which is already hard to hold them accountable in person. How did you manage to do that?
Well, I mean, the district came down with their grading policies. I think, I don't want to throw LAUSD under the bus, but basically we couldn't fail that semester. We couldn't fail anybody. But I did have to kind of reconstruct my grading policy. Obviously, grading had to be different. I think I was giving points if you had a screen on and we can kind of see face to face, and then their whole affective social emotional learning was huge, right? Huge. So my thing was, if I can get the screens on and just kind of have a dialogue about anything, was already a win. If I can get them to do that, then I think the next thing was like, all right, well, you get more points if you can do 5 push-ups. And before you know it, I think I gave the kids an assignment to use their empty milk cartons or milk gallons, fill them up with water, and that's what we're using for weights and whatnot.
Okay, I like that. That's very creative.
Yeah, so it was a challenge.
So I like that we went over the change in assessment methods. You had to reassess your methods on how to give these kids a better grade in order for them to succeed. And then we kind of delved into the mental health and well-being. I feel like that was one of the biggest aspects of the whole process, was the social isolation for children. I was tutoring a small group of Latino students at the time, because in the rural area I worked, it was majority white students. So as part of this program, I was mentoring young Latino students kind of at the end of during summer, basically. And what I noticed was that everything that I had planned to do with them, I kind of had to throw it out the window, because they were just kind of more interested in talking, like actually having physical conversations with somebody outside of their home. I definitely got in trouble for that. I actually got let go of that position. But I had stressed to the people who were telling me what to do, like, look, these kids are depressed. They don't care if they're doing good in math. They don't care if they're excelling in reading. Like I was reading a lot of cool, interesting, like Latino comic books, and they really, really liked it. So I shipped everything just to reading. I didn't even focus on math, because at that time, I had a couple sessions down, I couldn't see them and I couldn't hold them to it. And their parents were out doing stuff too. So it was kind of like, how do I force you to do something when it shouldn't be a force? It should be a want. And who really wants to do this kind of learning in this environment? So I really focused on the mental health aspect of it, of like, let's read. What did you think about this? How does this relate to you? Moving forward, now that we've kind of passed this COVID hurdle, the biggest COVID hurdle, how do we see us moving into the future with all the technology that we have adopted?
I think we're better prepared, Julian. If you ask me, I think more people should be looking into programs like the one we're in right now, to better equip themselves and take pride in their jobs. Take pride and I don't know what their reasons are for being in education, but I feel like educators and coaches changed my life, or made a big impact. So I definitely want to give back, and this is why I'm doing it.
Yep, I agree with you. The hybrid approach, I think, is here to stay in different aspects. And I think that's what we can see in the future, is even more technology being added to these classrooms once we kind of retrain the veteran teachers out there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
As we wrap up today's episode here at Tech Transformed Teachings, I'd like to thank you, our listeners, for joining us in this engaging conversation on the rise of EdTech in the COVID era. We've covered a lot of ground, from the shift to online learning to the challenges and innovations that have reshaped the educational landscape. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics in your communities and reflect on how we all can contribute to a more inclusive and effective educational future. This is Julian and Cesar signing off from Tech Transformed Teaching. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, keep learning. Until next time.